Bronwyn's Story of Sir Murtherus.
Lady Dara was young, and Lady Dara was fair. She had 2 brothers, and more suitors than she could count. But of them all, the bravest and most gallant was Sir Murtherus, whom she met at a tournament in Denerim. No one knew who Sir Murtherus was, or where he came from, but he was certainly brave and clearly rich, and of all her suitors, Lady Dara cared for him alone. He asked for her hand and was accepted. He described his keep and where it was, but did not arrange for her to come with her brothers to see it. Lady Dara was full of curiosity about her new home, so one day, when her father and brothers were hunting, and Sir Murtherus had gone away to tend to some business, as he said, she mounted her horse and set out to find his castle. At last, after a long ride, she came to a solitary wood, and a fine, strong keep she saw, with high walls and a deep moat. When she came up to the gateway, she saw a sign written on it, "Be bold, be bold." The gate was closed and no one answered. The little postern gate to the side was open, though, with room enough for her to slip through. Lady Dara had a cold feeling, like something terrible would happen. She tied her horse in the woods, well out of sight, and she entered the courtyard, all empty and silent as it was, and went to the door, and over it was a sign, be bold, but not too bold." Still she went on, until she came into the hall. It was fine and broad and high, but empty like all the rest of the castle. She found some wide stairs and went up them, until she came to a door at the end of the gallery, over which was written, be bold, but not too bold, lest that your heart's blood should run cold." But Lady Dara was a brave one, she was, and she opened the door, and what do you think she saw? A pile of bodies of other young ladies, dead and rotten, the remains of their rich clothing stained with blood. So Lady Dara thought it high time to leave that place, and she closed the door, and she ran back along the gallery and down the stairs. But just as she reached the door of the hall, she heard loud voices and the sound of armored feet. She rushed to a corner and hid herself behind some barrels, and Sir Murtherus came in with his henchmen, dragging a young lady through the door. They laughed and joked, and paid no attention to the young lady's shrieks and lamentations. They forced her to drink 3 glasses of wine, white, yellow, and red as blood. They stabbed her, every one of them, and she lay dead. Sir Murtherus saw a ruby ring on the lady's hand, and tried to pull it from her finger. But it was too tight, and he cursed and swore, and he drew his sword, and cut the young lady's hand right off. The hand flew into the air, and fell, of all places, into Lady Dara's lap. The men roared with laughter as they dragged the dead young lady up to the bloody chamber. Sir Murtherus wanted to search for the ring, but his captain stopped him and said, "Wait until tomorrow morning. That hand won't run away." No sooner were they out of sight than Lady Dara jumped up from behind the barrels, made a dash for the door, and was outside and through the postern gate, and on her horse and riding for home, as fast as ever she could. Now it happened that Lady Dara and Sir Murtherus were to be married the very next day. All her father's vassals came, and her brothers, and all her kin, and there was a great wedding breakfast set out. Sir Murtherus came with his henchmen, and was seated across from Lady Dara, and he said, "How pale you are this morning, my dear." "Yes," said she, "I had no rest last night, for I was plagued by a terrible dream." He was very gallant, and said, "Dreams go by contraries. Tell me your dream, and your sweet voice will make the time pass till the happy hour comes." "I dreamed," said Lady Dara, "that I went yesterday to your castle, and I found it at last in a solitary wood. It had high walls and a deep moat, and over the gateway was written, be bold, be bold." Sir Murtherus looked at her strangely, and he said, "But it is not so, nor was it so." Lady Dara said, "I went to the door, and over it was written, be bold, but not too bold." He said, "It is not so, nor was it so." "And then I went up the stairs," she said, "and came to a gallery, at the end of which was a door, and over it was written, be bold, but not too bold, lest that your heart's blood should run cold." "It is not so, nor was it so," said Sir Murtherus. "And then," she said, "I opened the door, and inside the room were piled the bodies of dead young ladies, their rich clothes stained with blood. "It is not so, nor was it so," said Sir Murtherus, "and Maker forbid that it should be so." Then I dreamed that I rushed down the gallery and down the stairs, and just as my hand was on the door, I heard you, Sir Murtherus, and your men coming up to the hall, dragging with you a young lady, rich and beautiful. "It is not so, nor was it so," said Sir Murtherus, "and Maker forbid that it should be so." I dreamed that I hid myself behind some barrels, while you and your men forced the young lady to drink your wine, white, yellow, and red as blood. And then you stabbed her, every one of you, and she lay dead. You tried to get her ruby ring from her finger, but it was too tight, and you drew your sword and hacked off her poor hand. "It is not so, nor was it so, and Maker forbid that it should be so," said Sir Murtherus. He was rising from his seat, getting ready to say something else, when Lady Dara cried out, "But it is so, and it was so. Here's hand and ring I have to show." And she pulled out the lady's hand from her dress, and pointed it straight at Sir Murtherus. And at once her father and her brothers and all her kin drew their swords, and they cut Sir Murtherus and his evil henchmen into 1,000 pieces.